The night stretched on like an endless abyss, swallowing everything in its inky embrace. I found myself navigating the desolate highway, the only sign of life being the faint glow of my headlights cutting through the darkness. The radio played a haunting melody, the static crackling like whispers from the beyond, adding to the eerie atmosphere that seemed to permeate the night. As I drove, lost in the solitude of the open road, my thoughts drifted to the events of the past week. It had been a tumultuous time, filled with sleepless nights and unanswered questions. But amidst the chaos, one thing remained constant, the memory of a chance encounter that would change everything. It was a stormy night much like this one when I first encountered the hitchhiker. Their figure stood hunched by the side of the road, drenched in the pouring rain, a solitary figure in the darkness. Against my better judgment, I had stopped to offer them a ride, a decision that would set in motion a chain of events that would lead me to the very edge of sanity. As the hitchhiker climbed into the car, their features obscured by the hood of their cloak, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. But despite the warning bells ringing in my mind, I found myself drawn to their enigmatic presence, compelled to unravel the mystery that surrounded them. We drove in silence for a while, the only sound being the steady rhythm of the rain against the windshield and the occasional crackle of static from the radio. The hitchhiker seemed lost in thought, their gaze fixed on some unseen horizon as we navigated the winding roads of the night. It wasn't until we reached a particularly desolate stretch of highway that the hitchhiker spoke, their voice a low murmur that cut through the silence like a knife. They spoke of strange occurrences, of whispers in the night and shadows that danced on the edge of perception. It was a tale woven from the fabric of nightmares, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurked just beyond the reach of our understanding. I listened in rapt attention as the hitchhiker spun their tale, their words painting a vivid picture of a world where reality and illusion blurred together in a maelstrom of chaos. It was a world where nothing was as it seemed, where danger lurked around every corner and death waited patiently in the shadows. As the night wore on, the hitchhiker's stories grew increasingly surreal, their voice taking on an otherworldly quality that sent shivers down my spine. They spoke of ancient curses and forbidden rituals, of creatures that slumbered beneath the earth and whispered secrets in the wind. It was a world of darkness and despair, a place where the boundaries between the living and the dead blurred together in a twisted dance of death and decay. But amidst the horror, there was a glimmer of hope, a chance to uncover the truth behind the mysteries that haunted us, to confront the darkness that lurked within our own souls. And so, fueled by a sense of curiosity and a thirst for adventure, we pressed on into the night, our fates intertwined like threads in the tapestry of fate. As the hours passed and the darkness deepened, we found ourselves drawn ever deeper into the heart of the unknown. The road stretched out before us like a ribbon of black silk, leading us further and further from the safety of civilization and deeper into the clutches of the night. But just as it seemed like we had reached the point of no return, disaster struck. The car sputtered and died, the engine coughing to a stop as if choked by unseen hands. I cursed under my breath, frantically trying to restart the engine as panic clawed at the edges of my mind. But no matter what I tried, the car remained stubbornly silent, trapped in the grip of the night. With no other options, we were forced to abandon the car and continue on foot. The hitchhiker led the way, their steps quick and determined as they navigated the twisting roads with ease. I followed close behind, my heart pounding in my chest as the darkness closed in around us like a suffocating blanket. As we trudged through the night, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being herded like sheep to the slaughter. Every shadow seemed to conceal a hidden threat, every rustle of leaves sending a shiver down my spine. I wanted to scream, to run, to do anything to escape the suffocating grip of the night, but fear rooted me to the spot like a deer caught in the headlights. And then, just when it seemed like we couldn't go on any longer, we stumbled upon a dilapidated farmhouse nestled in the heart of the forest. The sight filled me with a sense of relief, a glimmer of hope in the darkness that surrounded us. But as we approached, a chill ran down my spine, a nagging sense of unease settling in the pit of my stomach. The door creaked open with a sound like a scream, revealing a scene straight out of a nightmare. The air was thick with the stench of decay, the walls adorned with grotesque symbols that seemed to pulse with a sickening energy. I wanted to turn and run, to flee from this house of horrors and never look back, but something compelled me to step inside, to confront the darkness that lurked within. And that's when I saw it, a figure lurking in the shadows, its eyes glowing with a malevolent light as it slunk towards us with predatory grace. I tried to scream, to warn the hitchhiker of the danger that lay in wait, but my voice caught in my throat, choked off by the suffocating grip of fear. As the creature closed in, its features twisting and contorting in the dim light, I knew that we were doomed. We were just two lost souls, wandering through the darkness, unaware of the horrors that awaited us in the dead of night. And as its claws closed around us, dragging us into the depths of the abyss, I couldn't help but wonder, was this the end of our journey, or just the beginning of a nightmare that would never end? The darkness swallowed us whole, leaving behind nothing but the echo of our screams as we disappeared into the void. And as the night stretched on, swallowing everything in its path, I couldn't help but wonder, what other horrors lurked in the shadows, waiting to claim their next victims in the dead of night? The witching hour descended like a veil of darkness upon the world as I embarked on a solitary journey down the desolate highway. The moon, obscured by wisps of ominous clouds, cast an eerie glow over the barren landscape, illuminating the road ahead in a ghostly pallor. As I navigated the winding curves of the highway, a chilling wind whispered through the trees, its mournful howl echoing in the stillness of the night. The air hung heavy with an oppressive silence, broken only by the steady thrum of my car's engine as it carried me further into the heart of darkness. Suddenly, without warning, my car was put to a sudden halt as if it were stopped by an unseen force. Panic seized me as I frantically attempted to restart the engine, but to no avail. I was stranded, alone and vulnerable, with the silence of the night pressing in on me like a suffocating weight. Stepping out of the car, a sense of dread washed over me as I heard the faint echo of footsteps in the distance, their rhythmic cadence growing louder with each passing moment. I turned, my heart pounding in my chest as I strained to pierce the darkness with my gaze. And then, emerging from the shadows, they appeared, twisted, grotesque figures with eyes aglow like burning embers, their forms contorted and unnatural. Fear gripped me as I realized that I was not alone on this forsaken highway, that I was being hunted by something far more sinister than mere mortal men. With a surge of adrenaline, I turned and ran, my footsteps echoing in the stillness of the night as I fled from the approaching horde. But no matter how fast I ran, I could feel their presence closing in, their malevolent aura enveloping me like a shroud of darkness. As I ran, my mind raced with thoughts of escape, of finding sanctuary from the horror that pursued me. But with each passing moment, the darkness seemed to grow denser, more suffocating, until I felt as though I were drowning in a sea of shadows. Finally, with nowhere left to turn, I stumbled upon an ancient graveyard hidden amidst the gnarled trees of the forest. With trembling hands, I pushed open the rusted gate and stepped inside, seeking refuge from the nightmare that had become my reality. But then I heard it. A low, guttural growl that sent a chill down my spine. And in that moment, I knew that I had unwittingly stumbled into the domain of the demons, trapped in a nightmare from which there was no escape. With a sinking feeling in my gut, I realized the truth. The demons were not hunting me, but rather leading me into their trap. And as they closed in, their twisted forms writhing in the darkness, I knew that my fate was sealed, condemned to spend eternity in the clutches of the demonic entities that roamed the midnight highway. The night was a tapestry of shadows as I raced down the desolate highway, the steady thrum of my car's engine the only companion in the vast expanse of darkness. With each passing mile, a sense of unease settled over me like a heavy shroud, my eyes constantly darting to the rearview mirror, searching for any sign of pursuit. And there he was, a dark silhouette on the horizon, his presence ominous and foreboding. I knew then that I was being followed, pursued by a predator whose intentions were as murky as the night itself. With a racing heart, I pressed down harder on the accelerator, willing my car to go faster, to outrun the terror that lurked just behind me. But no matter how fast I drove, I could feel his presence drawing nearer, his malevolent aura casting a chilling pall over the road ahead. Panic surged through me as I navigated the winding curves of the highway, the darkness seeming to press in on me from all sides, suffocating and relentless. Suddenly, without warning, my car gave a shudder and died, the engine sputtering to a halt. Desperation clawed at my chest as I frantically tried to restart the engine, but to no avail. I was stranded, alone and vulnerable, with nowhere to turn for help. Stepping out of the car, I felt a chill run down my spine as I heard the sound of footsteps echoing on the empty highway behind me. I turned, my eyes widening in horror as I saw him, my pursuer, his form distorted by the shadows, advancing towards me with slow, deliberate steps. With a surge of adrenaline, I turned and ran, my footsteps pounding on the pavement as I raced down the deserted highway. But no matter how fast I ran, I could feel him closing in, his presence like a suffocating weight on my soul. As I ran, my mind raced with thoughts of escape, of finding sanctuary from the horror that pursued me. But with each passing moment, the darkness seemed to swallow me whole, consuming me with its insatiable hunger. Finally, with nowhere left to turn, I stumbled upon an abandoned house hidden deep in the heart of the forest. With trembling hands, I pushed open the creaking door and stepped inside, seeking refuge from the nightmare that had become my reality. But as I turned to close the door behind me, I caught sight of him, my pursuer, standing in the darkness just beyond the threshold, his eyes gleaming with a feral hunger. And in that moment, I knew that there was no escape from the horror that lurked in the shadows of the highway. With a sinking feeling in my gut, I realized that I had stumbled into his lair, a trap laid out for unsuspecting prey like myself. And as he closed in, his grin widening into a sinister smirk, I knew that my fate was sealed, trapped in a nightmare from which there was no waking. Your support means everything to us. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, share, and subscribe. Click the video on the screen for more shadowy delights.